Hello friends, welcome back. Today we're going to build a drum machine. Fulfill the user stories below and give it your own personal style. You can use a mix of HTML, JavaScript, CSS, Bootstrap, Sass, React, Redux, and jQuery to complete this project. I'm planning to use HTML, JavaScript, Bootstrap, and jQuery. I don't understand why anybody would use React and Redux or something like this. You should use a front-end framework like React. Okay, so they're kind of saying you should do that, but it makes zero sense to me to do that in this project because this section is about learning front-end frameworks. I mean, Bootstrap, I consider that more of like a library. jQuery is more like a library. I mean, React really is a framework here from the way that I understand it, but at the same time, something like this, it just really doesn't require something like React to operate, in my opinion. So additional technologies not listed or not recommended, we're not going to use those. Angular, Vue. We will be happy to accent and try and fix all issues for reports. Okay, user one. So instead of going through these user stories, I'm going to do test-driven development. We're going to build this on... we're going to use just basic text editor, GitHub, and the terminal to make this project. So it should be really easy if you're on a Mac or a normal computer. And so, yeah, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to start it off with a Bootstrap. The get started. So if you go to bootstrap.com, I think if you just go to bootstrap.com, you can get to the quick start pretty quick. Click get started. And then they've got the get started here. They have the CSS and the JS. You'll see this is actually jQuery, Popper, and Bootstrap JavaScript in here. So we can start all of that with our starter template. So I'm just going to copy this. And I'm going to go, I'm going to press Command Spacebar to get the terminal open. In the terminal, I'm going to ls. It shows that I'm on my main section. I'm going to Command K to clean it up. But if I go pwd, you see I'm in desktop. If I ls, there's only 3 folders on my desktop. I try to keep my desktop really clean so that these projects are easy to understand. So we're going to go make directory. And I'm going to call this project Jimi Hendrix quote machine. So they're saying in this project that you're going to make a drum machine, so they want like beats so you can hit it with the keyboards and stuff like that. But I'm just going to do it with Jimi Hendrix quotes because I think that kind of fits the style of the projects I've been working on in Free Code Camp, and it's actually something I find interesting rather than just making a drum machine, because there's drum machines that are already really good, but to have a quote machine I think would be much better. So yeah. I've got the terminal open. I've made the directory. So now if I scroll out, you see the directories here. So I'm going to change directories into Jimi Hendrix quote machine. I just probably JIMI, and then I hit the tab key. So that gets me in there. If I go pwd, you see I'm there. And then we're going to go touch index.html. And then we're going to say, I use an editor called Atom, which is my text editor. So if I go Atom and then I put the period, it'll open up my Atom text editor. And it also has my HTML page here, so I can start developing simply in Atom. So let's throw this guy up at the top. Now, because I copied the starter template from Bootstrap, I can just paste this into here. And if I save that, and I can go open -A Google Chrome. So what I'm going to do is open this project, this HTML project. Here it's open with Atom, but I want to open it in Google Chrome so that I can see it parsed through the browser. And so I'm going to type in index.html, Google Chrome, open -A Google oh, I need an R. Okay, cool. Yeah, this is the public window. I want to keep using my incognito window just to keep things clean. So I'm just going to copy that route into here. You don't need to do that though. So we've got hello world in here. We're going to say this Jimi Hendrix drum or quote machine. So if I save that, that's in the title. I'm going to make the Jimi Hendrix quote machine the H1 here as well, but we'll probably change all of this. If I save that and refresh over here, you'll see it's in the middle. We could go class is equal to text center. And that, if I save that, you'll see, okay, cool. So because we're using this text center and the the font has changed to this one rather than the original font, we know that jQuery is actually working the Bootstrap is working fine here. I just refreshed to this because the colors weren't working right for a second. Okay, so, well, the first thing that we need to do is get we're going to do test-driven development on this. So I'm going to get this CDN, this JavaScript code. And so I want to use the free code camp test-driven development environment to create this. So I'm going to add it down here. I'm going to go script source, and then I'm typing in this URL. I'm just pasting it in. And then we're going to close the script tag. And now if I save this and I come back over to my quote machine and I refresh the page, we see that there's a drop-down menu, and we can change this to our drum machine, because that's the project we're doing, the drum machine project. And we run the tests, and we see that we're failing 7 tests, which is exactly what we want because we want to start there. So here, the test. I should be able to see an outer container with a corresponding ID of drum machine that contains all other elements. Okay, cool. So within the body tag, what we can do is say a div class is equal to container. And then they want that to have an ID of drum machine. So we can say ID is equal to drum machine. Now if I save this and I refresh this page and I run the tests, it didn't pass. I should see an outer container. Oh, you know what I need to do is I need to close the div. And because I want this H1 to be being held within it, I need to close the div here. So I save this, refresh the page, and run the tests. Still not working. Drum machine element must contain other elements. Must contain other elements. So maybe this isn't passing. Right now, the assertion error says that the drum machine must contain other elements. Because there's nothing else there, I'm just going to move on. Within drum machine, I can see an element with corresponding ID of display. So let's just do that real quick. Div class, no, ID is equal to display. Just don't put anything in there at first. So I save this, I come back over here, refresh, run the tests. Cool, and now the first and the second. So the first test actually requires that you have an element in there for it to work. And so now I've got a display element. And so within the drum machine, I can see 9 clickable drum pad elements, each with a class of drum pad and a unique ID that describes the audio clip, and the drum pad will be set up to trigger, and an inner text that corresponds to one of the following keys of the keyboard: Q, W, E, A, S, D, Z, X, C. The drum pads must be in this order. Interesting. Okay, cool. The drum machine has 9 clickable drum pad elements, each with a class name of drum pad. So we've got div class is equal to drum pad, clickable drum pad elements, drum pad, and a unique ID that describes the audio clip. The drum pad will be, yeah, and so we need a unique ID. So ID is equal to, and we'll just make this drum 0 for now, and then I'm going to close this div. So yeah, let's refresh the page and see if this expected 0 to be at least 9 works. So if I run the test now, expect 1 to be 9. Okay, cool. So what we can do now is just go, we need 9. So we want to make this up, we want to make 8 more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now if I save this and refresh this page and we run the tests, it looks like, okay, the drum pad's inner text should be one of the following letters. All the letters must be representative. So to be separated over. Okay, so we want to have these be the order. So I'm just going to copy these and paste them here. They want the inner text to be there. Q, W, E, A, S, D, Z, X, C. And I just put this here just so it's easy to read, so I'll get rid of it now that I've changed the inner text of each of these elements. So I'm at Command S, refresh this page, run the tests. Now you can see here we've got the letters here, even though they're not doing anything. But with test-driven development, you just try to get things to pass the test, and then you can go back through and make it look cool and function properly. HTML5 element which has a source attribute pointing to an audio clip, a class named name of clip, and an ID corresponding to the inner text of its parent drum pad. Should have a child element with the class of clip. Each drum pad should have a child element with the class of clip. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm using command click to get all of these, to be able to select all of them. And then what I want to do is come back here and then start another one. We want a child. Yeah, there should be audio element which has a source. Okay, each drum pad, there should be an HTML5 audio element. So we're going to go audio. An audio element which has a source attributed to. So we're going to say source is equal to, and this is just going to, we don't have anything in here yet. But we could go, we know we're going to put it in here under /, we'll make a folder called clip. And then we're going to have something within here. And so I could actually right click here and say new folder. I don't know where new folder is. Oh yeah, new folder. I always just press Shift A, and then we're going to call this clip. And so within here, we'll put our audio elements. And so that's what the source is. Uh-oh, I lost my selector. We've got the clip. A class pointing to source attribute pointing to an audio clip. So we don't have the audio clip yet. We want to do a class name of clip. So in here, we're going to say class is equal to clip. And an ID corresponding to the inner text of its parent drum. Okay, cool. And then the ID, which is equal to, we're going to have to fill that in for each individual one. And so here I can just put, I'll just put C in. I'm going to start from the bottom. This one should be X. This one should be Z. This one should be D, because I'm matching the clip ID with what's in here. So S, A, E, W, Q. So if I save this and I refresh this page and we run the tests, looks like we've got one passing. When I click a drum pad element, the audio contained in its child audio should be triggered. A drum pad element. Okay. So this makes me think that I've made a mistake, that instead of this being a div, we should make this a button. Drum pad, drum pad, drum pad. So when I say, well, what I can do is press Command F here, and then I'm just searching for things. I can go div class is equal to drum pad. Okay, so what I'm doing is I searched 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got all 9 of my drum pads selected, and I want to replace this text with button class is equal to drum pad. Now, you'll see if I've got this first one, if I click replace here, it just changes that bit to drum pad, and now I can just do replace all, and I've got the drum pad as set as a button. And then I just need to shift all these divs, these closing divs, to being closing buttons. Okay, cool. Now if I save this and refresh the page, now I've got buttons here, which makes it so that they're clickable, then we can do something. So if now they're clickable. With all the buttons, let's see, I can go Command F and I can find class is equal to clip. And then I can change this to, for each of them that says class is equal to clip, I can say button, button primary. So this is Bootstrap. and then we want to keep clip in there because that's what is passing our tests. So here, if you see me, I click to here, and if I replace that one, I've added button and button primary to it. So now I can just do replace all and save. And I've done button primary to each of these. So if I refresh the page here, it should work, class. Okay, I've made a mistake there. I put it on the audio. So instead of that, what I need to do is change this guy. So where I press Command F, where it says button drum pad, I've got 9 of those. What I want to make is make it say button drum pad and then button primary. And let's actually make it button block too, so that they're all on one line. And so again, if I find here, you'll see the button. If I replace here, I've got the button primary. And so because I know there's 8 of them, which I've already changed one, so now I can just replace them all, and then I can save and refresh the page. And now we've got buttons for each of the quotes. We'll continue to make this better as we go. But for now, we've got clickable buttons for each one. So let's see if we run the tests now. Actually, nothing's going to change because when I click a drum pad element, the audio clip contained in its audio element should be triggered. Okay, so I use a program called Screenflow to get recordings from the internet. Screenflow, it costs money. There's probably different ways to do this. You don't have to do this. I'm just going to kind of go through a process. So I'm going to create a new one, a new document, and it doesn't matter the screen's dimensions. This is the working document I use to make these videos, but then I'm going to use this untitled document to record my screen. And so yeah, this is going to be kind of meta. And it's going to, but anyways, okay, so the, here I have a quote of Jimi Hendrix that I want to create a short audio clip of. So I am going to, actually I would have to hit record, but I'm already recording. So I'm just going to record this, and then we're going to put it into an MP3 file that we can use and upload to our open source project. So I'm going to play this for the recording. Okay, cool. So that's the first quote that I want to use. Now I'm going to do the stop recording. Okay, so I was able to add that recording to Screenflow here. And the first portion of it was me just blah, blah, blahing about the software. But then here's where it starts. So I press spacebar. What do you like to hear if somebody comes up? So what we want is just this audio. So I'm going to trim that and delete it. And then I'm going to come into here. Here we go. I've got what do you like to hear? Just the audio. So what I want to do is I can click here and
super stuff.
And I can trim off the end too. So this is the only part that it actually has audio. Screenflow has a cool thing called smooth volume levels, which makes it so they'll have smooth volume levels across the drum app. So when we hit like the A button, it has smooth levels, and it sounds loud, as equally loud across the whole drum thing. So we want to smooth the audio levels.
What do you like to hear?
I'm going to actually trim this up a little bit more.
What do you like to hear if somebody comes up after a concert? What kind of compliment do you like?
I don't know. I don't really live on
Super stuff.
Cool. And then I can just, I want to trim this actually.
you know,
That's an interesting problem, isn't it? You, if someone said about jazz,
another world, you know.
We can trim it there, and then there's this thing you can press Command Alt and then the / key to sort of get the fade in and the fade out, because I don't want my drum machine to have like clicks when it starts. I want it to start smoothly.
What do you like to hear if somebody comes up after a concert?
Okay, so now that we've got this pretty much figured out, I can press Command E, and then I'm going to export this. I'm going to make a manual export, because I want to export this as audio only. And then I'm going to say here, this is about, I want to make this on compliments, Jimi Hendrix. And I'm going to set this to the manual export of AAC, which means audio only. Because all I want is the audio. It doesn't even matter the video that's in here. And so I'm going to export this to the desktop. Okay, cool. And that happens almost immediately. Okay, and then if I look at the desktop, we see the on compliments is an audio file here.
What do you like to hear if somebody comes up after a concert? What kind of compliment do you...
Okay, so now we can now that we've got an audio file that works, we can drag this into the Jimi Hendrix quote machine. And then if I open up this folder, you can see on compliments is here. This is the wrong one. We want to add it to clip. And so now it's in the clip folder. And now we can go back to Atom, and we see in our clip folder, we have an M4A file in there. Now, if you open it up in a text editor, it looks wacky, but we don't need to do that. So now what we want to do is see if we can get the on compliments dash Jimi Hendrix here. And actually, I'm going to rename this because I want it to just be, not open the file, but rename the file. And we're going to say Q on compliments. Because we're going to be needing to use this thing. So I'm going to rename it, but I'm just copying the structure name. And we want to make this be clip / on compliments.m4a. And now I want to save this text file. And let's open back up to our MP3, like where we can see the project that we're working on. And so I'm going to refresh the page. And now Q should play this audio clip. Okay, so that did not work. Let's see what's going on here. Let's run the tests. It seems like they're passing. When I click drum pad element, an audio clip contained in the child audio element should be triggered. So how to trigger an audio clip when button is clicked. HTML. JavaScript autoplay. This is play on click. Okay, cool. So here, input type button, on click, play, and then the audio should be this guy. So we could say, I guess we could go for the button, we could say on click equals, and here they have function of play, get element by ID. Well, yeah, let's just do that for now. Play. And if we can get it working for one, we can get it working for more. And then audio play. So let's just copy this script tag into here. I'm going to keep the spacing. So now we've got our script tag in here and we've got play. And instead of get element by ID of audio, we want to say get element by ID Q. That's just for now. Okay, so now let's save this and see if this gets it working. Refresh the page here.
What do you like to hear if somebody comes up after a concert? What kind of compliment do you like?
Okay, to stop it, I just press the refresh page. Okay, so I'm going to continue making those Jimi Hendrix quotes over and over and over again. I need to make 9 of them in order to be successful here. For the purpose of this project, I'm not going to put that in here because it's the same process over and over again. So we're going to get back to it once we have 9 different Jimi Hendrix quotes. We'll see you soon. I was able to do the last clips. This is all the clips. These are all different Jimi Hendrix. These are all different Jimi Hendrix clips. So I took them, I added them all in here. So this was on age.
You had the chance to communicate.
This one's on rock music. This one's on bombing. Bombing's not the right way to say it. But anyways, I've got all the clips in here. So these are all tied to different ones. So let's see here. The first thing I want to do is say, with the drum pad, we want to be able to, when I click the Q, it plays right now.
If somebody comes up after a concert,
And I hit the refresh button to stop it. So what's happening is the button says play, and then the JavaScript function that gets triggered when that happens is this one. It says play, and so it says audio document get element by ID. So it's getting an element by ID. So it's saying the audio is equal to get element by ID with Q. And so audio Q is the one that it gets. And this is the one that says on compliments. So that's the one that it feeds in. So yeah, I think that the most basic, easy way to do this now would be to say, we would say play, Q, pass in the string of Q, and then you'd say get element by str, and then you could go str. And then this one, so if we go on play Q, then it's going to get element by ID Q, which is this guy. And so then we could continue to use this on play thing. So yeah, if I were to console.log here, you can see the str. If I press play and refresh this page and press Command Shift I, if I click this Q button, let me actually make it say the string passed in. So if I save this, refresh this page, and I press Q, the string passed in is Q.
What kind of compliment do you like?
And so I'm refreshing to stop it. So that makes it so that I can use this play function for all the different keys. So I can copy this on play element, and then I can add it to all the buttons. So here's one button, here's the next button, here's the next button, here's the next button, and I'm command clicking here in order to select multiple ones. So I don't have to type that on click play numerous times. And so I just paste in here and it has Q. And so here, instead of saying Q, I'm going to say, because I'm going to tab this out. So this first one, Q, was associated with this button, and then this audio file was associated with that. And so for this button, the W is associated with this W1. So we want to play W. And then we want to play E. And then we want to play A. And then we want to play S. And then we want to play D. Oops. My hand's falling asleep. D. And here we want to play Z. Here we want to play X. And here we want to play C. And so now if I save this folder and I refresh here, nothing happens in the console, which is great. But if I click W, uncaught in promise, the element has no supported source. Okay, cool. Here's the problem. I have not yet linked up. I'm going to make this full page now. I'm going to actually just make it, I want to make it this big so we can see what's going on. So Q works. Why? Because the source for the audio is clips on compliments, right? But so that associates with Q here on compliments. The next one, I have not yet added in the source files that we want to add. So the drum pad button associated with W, I've added W, so it's on. Here, I'm going to just start typing these in. W-on money.m4a. And then for E, it's E-on discipline.m4a. And here it's A. It's A on age.m4a. And then here it's S. So S on audience .m4a. And then clip here is D, which is on bombing, D on bombing .m4a. And then Z is Z dash on music philosophy .m4a. And then this is X on protesting .m4a. And then Z is here, Z on music philosophy .m4a. So now the audio sources have all been added. So if I save this, I come back over here and refresh the page,
The problem of succeeding is a hard one for you. If your basis, say, is in the blues or something like that,
This
and
is
you
on
suddenly
succeeding.
make hundreds of thousands of dollars. A discipline guide. Someone said it's hard.
And then this
We're
one,
seeing
but
the
you can hear
blues
them,
when you
the
get
strings are
into the
playing
money.
over themselves, which is annoying. But you can see that they're playing. So I was able to import each of these things, and now whenever we click one of these buttons, like even C,
What is your own personal philosophy?
it's playing the
of
music philosophy.
What effect do you
So
want it to
essentially,
have
this
on
is working
your
for that
audience?
purposes. And so if I refresh the page and run the tests, it looks like, oh cool, I've got more tests passing. When I click a drum pad element, the audio clip contained in its child element would be triggered. When I press the trigger key associated with each drum pad, the audio clip contained in the child audio element should be triggered. Pressing the Q should trigger the drum pad which contains the string Q. Pressing W key should trigger the drum pad which contains the string W. Press the trigger key associated with each drum pad. The trigger key. The audio clip contained in its child element should be triggered. Pressing the Q key should trigger the drum pad which contains the string Q. Pressing the W key should trigger the drum pad which contains the string W. That doesn't make any sense. Save that, refresh here. Q should work. Oh, W-E. No, it's not working at all for the button press. Okay, cool. So what I need to say is how to trigger HTML elements with button press. Okay, so I did a bunch of research on this, and it turns out there's a few things. You can do, there's key code, there is the string, you can get the value from the string. Turns out we don't need that. The thing that really helped me understand this was object.onKeyUp function script. So let's go back to our project. I'm gonna press Alt Command I, and I'm gonna try to develop a way, like, so we've got our document, right, which is our selector. That selects that. And then we can say dot window. And then on window, we have a function called onKeyUp. Oh, maybe it's window. We have our window.document. Yeah. And so it helps that it auto-fulfills this. And so onKeyUp. This is a function. So whenever anybody has in here does an onKeyUp, we're going to do something like, well, I'm going to just go function, and I'm going to say inside, I'm just going to make it a function that doesn't take up I'm going to have that event in here. And then why event? This is just straight up from here. It says that if you pass onKeyUp, you can say function. Well, where was it? Yeah, here. onKeyUp, you can pass your event in. And so what we're going to do here, we're going to pass in our event, and then within the function, I'm going to console.log, and I'm just going to console log the event. What this does is it just establishes this onKeyUp for here. And so if I type like the D key, this pops up. And the A key, this pops up. You see? Key A, code key A, location. It's got a whole, this is a whole JavaScript object that's related to that. So what I can do here is I can add this exact same code, and which I use the console to help me build it. I can throw that into this function. And so onKeyUp, we're rendering the function. So if I return and refresh this page, if I type the key Q, oh, not in the console though, I need to click out of the console. And if I type the key Q, the Q key, I get this guy. And so what we can do is we can change this. If I want to say the key, so I can say, instead of passing in the event, I want to say the event.key, and I save this, and I refresh here. If I type in Q, you see that it passes Q. Well, that's kind of cool, but the Q we can actually use because we're using the string. If I type in a shift Q, I get the Q key as well. So what we can do is we can use this to play the corresponding element. And so whenever the key comes up on this page, it's going to run here. And what we can do is take the event.key. Well, we can say if event.key is equal to Q, or event.key is equal to capital Q, then we want to play a capital Q, because we already have our play function. And then we get the audio, and then we play the audio. So if I save this and I refresh this page and I hit the letter Q,
What do you like to hear if somebody comes up after a concert? What kind of...
then it renders. So now we're assigned the event.key. So we can extract this a little bit, say let keystroke is equal to event.key. And this will make it so that we can just type keystroke in here. So that'll be a little bit more succinct. And then we're just going to want to do this for each one. So we're going to say else if keystroke is equal to W, or keystroke is equal to capital W, we're going to say play W. And we'll keep going down the line. Now, I'm just doing this way right now because it's kind of still an introductory level. The first thing I would do at this point is I would break this into a bunch of objects, and maybe we'll do that in refactoring this later. But for now, I can just type these out. So we did Q, we did W, this will be for E, this next one will be for A, this next one will be for S, this next one will be for D, this next one will be for Z, the next one will be for X, and this next one will be for C. So cool. Q, W, E, A, S, D, Z, X, and C. Okay, so now if I save this and I refresh the page, if I press X, it should play on protesting.
Yeah. Well, sometimes when there's a lot of, there's a lot of riots and so forth, that's still going to happen in the States, and anywhere else for that matter. So therefore, in the hottest parts of the country, they should allow these groups to play in an outdoor way,
Cool, so I'm going to refresh. This is great. Now we actually have the drum machine playing the keys. So I refresh the page, and let's see if we're passing some more tests. Nice. Now we've passed 7 out of 8. So we've passed the 6th test, and we've assigned the key values to each of the drum ones. So now you can either click or hit one of the keys that's associated with it. So when the drum pad is triggered, a string describing the associated audio clip is displayed as the inner text of the display element. Each string must be unique. Each time a drum pad is triggered, a unique string should be displayed in the element with the ID of display. Expect true to be false. A drum pad is triggered, a unique string should be displayed in the element with the ID display. Okay, so yeah, display is at the top. It's right under the Jimi Hendrix quote machine, and right now the display is currently empty. And so if I refresh the page here, you'll see the display is here. Yeah, this is awesome. We can make the display something. And in Bootstrap, they have what's called cards. So we can make this div. We can make this class is equal to card. Actually, I don't even want to do that. I want to keep this display here. So this is our card. And then we're going to, in here, we're going to have a... we're going to have, so yeah, inside the card, and then you're going to have a div class is equal to card body. And now I'm going to slow down here and just describe what this div card and div card body are. I want the display to be in a card. And in JavaScript, or in Bootstrap, we have what's called cards. Cards look like this. And so you have card and card body. So I've just pulled this from here, and then within there, I'm going to have this display. Nothing yet to display. So if I save here and I come over here, you can see we've got nothing yet to display. And so on the display, I could add a class equals to text center. Save that, and we've got a display box. And with the card, we can add a PY, which is padding on the top and the bottom. You could go PB for bottom, PT for top, but I go PY for padding on the top and bottom. If I save that, refresh, you see there's padding. I actually made a mistake. I want to make this a margin. So if I do that, then we have a margin. And so now, whenever we click a button, we want that some text to fill into here. And so, yeah, we're going to have to think about how to do that. So one way, let's see. First off, let's just do it in the console. So if we go document.window, document.getElementById, and then we go display, that should give us this guy, right? If I hover this, it shows the display. And if I say .inner, or if I say .text is equal to useful programmer, .text, maybe inner HTML. Cool. So that's the way. This is how I'm going to change the display. Yeah. Play Q. All right. So here we're playing the audio play. Inner display here. Whenever we click play or we do a keystroke, we're running this one. And so what we can do is say, we can say this, we can say let display field equal document.getElementById.display. And then now future on, we can say display field dot inner HTML, and we can set that equal to whatever we want it to be. Cool. So now what we want to do is be able to, oh yeah, I want to get rid of this because we just want to select the display field. So if we, yeah, we can say if the string is, man, it's kind of like we're doing this again. So this is a good sign that the code needs to be refactored, but right now I'm just trying to get it done. So instead of keystroke, we want to say if str. So I'm going to say keystroke. I do Command F to pull this box up, and what I want is instead of keystroke, I want it to say if string. And so I'm just going to start replacing these. Oops. I'm going to find my way through here because it's going to find all these guys first. Oh no. And then I'm just going to replace here. So string. And I'll do these guys just by hand. And then instead of play Q, I'm going to say display field dot inner HTML is equal to, let's see. So Q is associated with this one on compliments. So I'm going to type in here, I'm going to say on compliments. And if we save here, I hope when we press Q, I refresh over here, if I press Q, nothing display should change to on compliments. Oh, and I can't type it into the console, I need to type it into the window.
What do you like to hear if somebody comes up after a concert? What kind of compliment do you like?
So that didn't work. Display field. Okay, so the display field's not working. I played around with it for a little bit, and I realized it does work if I go like, instead of using the variable, I just punch that in like that. And then I want to get rid of this display field inner HTML down here as well. And then if I save this, and I come over here and refresh the page, nothing yet to display is the default behavior. And then if I hit the Q,
What do you like to hear if somebody comes up after a concert? What?
it changes to on compliments, which is great. And so that's what I want to do now. I just want to say, change all of this, right? So I'm just going to change these all so that they duplicate this behavior. But instead of on compliments, I'm going to do W, and I can tell them from here is on money. And then on E is on discipline. And on A is on age. And S is on audience. D is on performing poorly. I said on bombing in there, but I don't know that that's universal. And then if somebody types the letter Z, they're going to say on music philosophy. On X, on protesting. Testing. And then C is on rock music. Now if I save that and refresh the page, we've got...
The problem of succeeding is a hard one for you if you're based...
I just did on money, and so that one worked. And so that actually should pass the tests. Let's see what happens if we run the tests. Oh, right, we've got 8 of 8 passing, which means... functionally, this passes the test for the requirements of the project. This is kind of cool. It works on, because we use Bootstrap. It works mobily. Like this is what it would look like on an iPad. If your iPad was hyper small, say it was like 75. This is how it would look like on an iPad. This is how it would look like on an iPhone. So it's pretty reasonable project. Functionally, it's working right now. Now, there's a bunch of stuff I don't like about this. There's a lot of code replacement. Like, why do we need to do this if statement going through all the letters? And also, it's not extendable. If we wanted to do it again, we'd have to, if we wanted to add another clip in here, we'd have to do a bunch. And the buttons are kind of all over the place. There's probably a better way to do these buttons. We could at least make a few rows of the buttons instead of just having them all on their own. Maybe we could say but there's a lot of things that we could do to this. But right now we've got it to a point where it's functioning. So I'm going to exit out. I came to Node on a different project. So the next thing we want to do though is I want to get this pushed up to GitHub and make it live, because I'm not going to spend a bunch of time just making this quote machine look awesome right now. What I want to do is get it so it's live on the internet, and so that we can submit our drum machine to this project here. So I'm going to cancel out of everything. Let's see, we don't need this anymore, and we don't need all these keyboard shortcut things that I came to figure out while I was working on this. We do want, on this page, on my other page, I've got, let's see, I'm going to just open up a new window, and on GitHub, I can go to Ian Robinson. Okay, so this is just my GitHub page. If you're not signed into GitHub, you're going to need to sign in. But what I'm going to do is create a new repository. And then we're going to call this the Hendrix quote machine. Okay, apparently that's a variable. And we're going to say a quote machine for Jimi Hendrix. And I'm going to create the repository. Cool. And so now we want to push this up. The way to do this is we want to push an existing repository to the command line. And in order to do that, we need to create a repository. So if I go pwd, I'm in the Jimi Hendrix quote machine. If you've lost track with that, you need to be able to find your project using the terminal. Mine is set to the desktop. And so if I wanted to get to the desktop, I could always just go change directories to the desktop. And then I just type ls and then the Jimi Hendrix quote machine, so I can change directory Jimi Hendrix quote machine. If I ls here, you'll see I've got the clip folder and then the index HTML file. So if I go pwd, that's where I am. And so now I know I'm in the root of the folder where I've got the clip folder and the index file. And so what I want to do is go git init, which initializes a Git repository for here. And then I go git status. Now that a Git repository has been initialized, I can go git status and it says, you have no commits yet, but you have 2 untracked files. Okay, cool. So I want to add those. So I'm going to say git add, and I could go clip and I could go index like this, or I can just say git add period. And so if I go git status, you'll see that all these files have been added to the project. So now that I've staged these edits, what I can do is go git commit. So now I'm committing them, and I'm adding a message, adding index and clips, audio clips. Cool. And the message can be anything. You don't need to say that. This is just a way for me to know what I did in that. I like to make these descriptive if possible. And so now I can say, and now we have an existing repository with commits. I can say git log to see the commits. And so here it's the first one. This is the date. And then I said add index and audio clips. And so what we want to do is push an existing repository from the command line. So I'm going to say git remote add origin. And then so I'm adding this GitHub repository. And then you can check to see by going git remote -v. That says, okay, it's set up for this, IA Robinson Hendricks quote machine.git. So that's this guy. And so now we want to just say git push -u origin master. And if you watch previous videos, you've seen me do this numerous times. This one's actually taking the longest to upload because we've got a bunch of files in there. It's uploading all those audio files to GitHub right now. And so if I refresh this page, you'll see it's changed. Now it actually has the project in here. So yeah, what we want to do is make this live on the internet. So we're going to use what's called GitHub Pages. So we're going to go over to Settings, and we're going to slide down to GitHub Pages. It's at the bottom. And we're going to make the source be the master branch. And so this basically just publishes it. It says GitHub Pages source saved. And so if we scroll down here, we'll see that if you go to this URL, you should see the project. Now I'm going to open this link in a new window, and I'm also going to copy it. But it says site not found. Don't worry about it. It usually takes 5 to 10 minutes for this to pop up. So we're not going to worry about that for now. But for now, what we can do is go back to this project and hit the code tab. On the code tab, it says help people interested in this repository understand your project by adding a README. So we can click here to do an add a README, or we can just commit some more changes here. So what I want to do, and you'll be able to see it, if this is the project, we've got our index and our clip here. If I go touch and I want to add a README, then you'll see a README folder is going to pop up here. And so we can go open. Well, we could just go back to our text editor and then pop into our README. And so we're going to use GitHub Markdown to make a README. This is a Jimi Hendrix quote machine. And within here, click here to see it live. And the way you make links in GitHub Markdown is with brackets. And then inside of the parentheses, you create the link that you're going to link to. And then, yeah, this fulfills one part of the free code camp curriculum. See the live video on YouTube. usefulprogrammer.org/YouTube. And I'm going to actually link to, oh yeah, so on YouTube. And then I'm going to make this the link. I think it's http://www.youtube.com. And just to check the link before live on YouTube. So I'm going to check the link before I actually send it out. before I save it. So I'm going to save this README file. Cool, that worked. And what I can do now is I can say git status. You can see the README is not added, so I want to say git add the README, or I could do the period to add all the files. And if I do git status now, you can see that it is staged. So I can say git commit -m, and the message is just going to be add a README. And now I'm just going to go git push. So I come back over to the repository, and once this is complete, I can refresh this page, and we'll see that the README has popped up. So this is a Jimi Hendrix quote machine. You can click here to see it live, or you can view it on YouTube here. And so if I click here, there it goes. It's actually live on the internet now. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of things with this project that I would like to improve. I think that this, obviously we're repeating ourselves a lot in here. A good thing in software engineering is you don't want to repeat yourself. We're repeating ourselves with all this huge if-else statement block. We're doing it again here. We only need to do this once, I'm confident. And so even we might actually just need to write one if-else statement if we were to pass in the information the right way. And also this, even though it looks kind of clean, it does need a lot of work. It doesn't look like a Jimi Hendrix thing right now. We'd want to put some images in here. The buttons are long and blank. They don't describe anything. It'd be better to have some stuff on here. But for now, this is the bare minimum of what you need to pass the free code camp test. And so if we were to come back over to our free code camp, the front end libraries situation here, the website, we've gone into here. We're at front end libraries. We click the drum machine, and if we can add our solution in here. And so once we've completed the challenge, this essentially completes the challenge. The cool thing about using this as our portfolio submission is we can still update it. So if we submit your GitHub link, then we'll still be able to go in and make changes to improve it. So I plan on doing a bit more on this project in the near future, but for now I can submit and we can call this one complete. And that wraps up one more of the front end library projects. There will be a part 2 to this and maybe some more because I like the way that the project's coming out, and I'd like to do a little bit more with it just because I actually want to use it for a portfolio item. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next project.